Colorado Avalanche are in town, and so is Cam Atkinson. One of these is really exciting. The other one is less so. Let's break down tonight's game on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Colorado Avalanche are in town. The rules say that we have to play them. So I thought today we would talk about that. And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how the Colorado Avalanche are looking really good early in the season. The Blue Jackets are going to be showing off some new forward lines, which I have thoughts about. And I hope you can hear the capital T on the start of thoughts there when I say it. And Cam Atkinson's in town. So I wanted to talk a little bit about everyone's favorite little guy again. So we'll start off. We'll talk about the game, the Avalanche, the Blue Jackets, and then we'll talk about Cam just to kind of finish it off. But this is a frustrating game to go into, I think, because here's the thing: the Blue Jackets should really be 3-0 at the minute. Arguably, 2-1, depending on how you feel about the Preds game and the Devils game. But I certainly thought that they played well enough to win both games. Unfortunately, they are 1-2. The penalty kill, big reason for that. Obviously, I'm not going to get into talking about the penalty kill with any kind of real length of time, because what can I say, right? Until it gives up another 4 goals tonight, and I really hope it doesn't do that. There's only so much we can say. I know Dean Emerson talked to the media yesterday and was like, "Listen, we know the penalty kill has been bad, but we think some of those goals were unlucky. We think we've been doing some good things on the penalty kill, but we also, we've identified the negative things. So I don't know if it will improve tonight. I was going to say it can't get worse, but I'm going to knock on wood about that because I can only use my hockey powers for evil, right? But the Avs are rolling at the minute. Like, the Avs are a good team, and a lot of that is because they have some really, really high-end talent. Nate McKinnon is a great player, far and away their best player, in my opinion. We're not going to have the Zach Werenski versus Cale Makar debate today, but I think that probably is going to be the debate, at least on the broadcast. Obviously, the first and second place Norris guys last season. But McKinnon's got 8 points in 4 games already. Martin Necas, contract year, I will say, another 8 points in 4 games for him. And then Cale Makar's got 5 points in those 4 games as well. Exactly who you'd expect to be scoring, right? Like, everyone else has kind of been a little bit less top heavy in the scoring. But they're getting the results from the big guys, right? They're getting the results from the ones that they want. But they're not like scoring at will, I don't think. I think they've got 11 goals in 4 games so far, which my math might be wrong on that, but that's, it's just over 3 goals a game, which is not out of this world good. The Blue Jackets have actually been scoring at a higher clip. However, that's because they scored 7 goals in that one game, and it's skewing the results, right? So it's tough to look at goals for per game at such an early point of the season. But the thing with the Avalanche is they are getting excellent goaltending right now. Mackenzie Blackwood, I think, is injured, or he must be, because he hasn't dressed for a game yet. Scott Wedgwood has played all 4 games for the Avalanche, is 3-0-1 and has a .935 save percentage, which, like, you can't really argue with that, right? Like, they're getting offense from their top guys. They're getting goaltending. They're probably getting some decent defense based on the Avs defense being, pretty good in general. But they don't really have a weakness necessarily, right? Like, their power play is doing better than the Blue Jackets. Their penalty kill is doing way better than the Blue Jackets. They're scoring enough goals. They're not allowing a bunch of goals. Like, it's, again, like, things will regress for the Avs, like they won't continue at this clip. They're not going to win 3/4 of their games. Just like the Blue Jackets, their penalty kill is going to regress to normal, we hope. But as of right now, extremely, extremely hot team coming in. I believe leading their division at the minute, but you can't argue with a 3-0-1 record, right? They haven't lost in regulation yet. Would love for them to do that tonight, but I'm not gonna sell my soul for that. The Blue Jackets need to be better than they have been. This is a tough game. Obviously, we talked at I want to say maybe even before the Nashville game. I was like, right, okay, well, the Nashville game is like a nice, easy start. Then you step up and you play the Wild, right? The Devils in division game, always going to be tough. The Blue Jackets always seem to struggle a little bit against the Devils for whatever reason. And now you've got the Avalanche coming into town, which that's a tough one, right? Like this is a good team that the Blue Jackets have, yes, had some success against before, but also is a team that I think is always going to be a tough game, right? You're never going to look at the Avs and go, oh, thank God we get to play the Avs, right? Then you get to play the Lightning in the next game. You get to play the Dallas Stars the game after that. You get to play the Washington Capitals the game after that, right? Like, this is a tough little stretch here. Lightning struggling to start the season, but again, they always seem to have the Blue Jackets number, so I'm kind of putting them in the category of good team that you have to play against. The next 4 games are tough. You really should have gotten all of the points that you could out of these slightly easier teams in Nashville and New Jersey before you have to go in and face, the Avalanche, the Stars, etc. But that's hindsight beside the point. Like, you can't go back and change that. But this is a tough little stretch of games going down the stretch here. The Blue Jackets capable of winning this game. I think, again, like the on ice numbers haven't really been there in terms of like offense beyond that one game. They've scored 10 goals, I think it is, and 7 of them in one game. But this is a winnable game, provided they don't get goalied for a 3rd time in 4 games, which, based on Scott Wedgwood's play, this might happen, right? I don't think it will. I think it's going to be a more even game than especially than the Preds game, right, where the Blue Jackets just kind of steamrolled at them and got stoned by UC Saros. I think it was a much more even game against the Devils, especially towards the end. I think the shots were 37 to 31, I want to say, without looking it up. But it's a winnable game, but it's going to be a tough game. Blue Jackets typically play well at home, or they did last season at least. So we'll have to hope that continues. But this is, for me, is going to be a really good test of, can you hang with a 100% playoff opponent? Because I don't know that the Wild or the Devils are 100% playoff locks, right? They probably should be, based on the teams around them in the division. But I do think that the Blue Jackets are going to have to fight with the Devils over that last playoff spot. They're going to have to fight with the Devils or the Capitals for that last playoff spot, I think. So the Avalanche is almost certainly a lock to make the playoffs. Probably is going to challenge for winning the division. Might challenge for winning the entire dang league if they keep rolling the way that they are right now. So it's not an unwinnable game, but it is certainly the toughest game of the Blue Jackets schedule so far. And if they can hold up against the Avalanche, I think that says good things about their underlying team focus. And focus is not the word I want to use, but their underlying team metrics, I guess, is the best. Is the best word for it. But even if they don't win this game, I think if they show up and hold up against the Avalanche, then that's a really good sign. Because if they can hold their own against the Avalanche, then they can probably hold their own against most teams in this league, right? But there are some changes for the Blue Jackets that I like in principle, I like in theory, and don't know if I like in practice. I want to talk about the new forward lines for the Blue Jackets because I do think that this is going to be the make or break for this team. And I'll talk about what I mean by that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about Game Time. Hockey season's officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's where Game Time comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It is your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets, fast, easy, and stress-free. I actually used this recently. I was in Toronto for the long weekend for my anniversary. We decided, hey, screw it. Let's go to a Leafs game. We went on Game Time, found tickets to a Leafs game for under $100 each, which I am counting as an absolute win in Toronto. And very similar tickets were extremely less reasonably priced on other ticketing softwares. Fees were included. I could see exactly what my view looked like before I bought the tickets. And I have no complaints with Game Time. I used it for a Habs game a couple of weeks ago as well. Like, it's the best. If you're in somewhere with an NHL game, use Game Time to get tickets to it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're going to talk a little bit about these brand new forward lines that the Blue Jackets have rolled out, because I feel a way about it. This is either going to be genius coaching from Dean Everson, or it's going to be a disaster, and I don't know which way it's going to go yet. But I agree that the lines needed to be mixed up, right? I feel like I've spent the last 3 episodes yelling about the middle six being bad and needing to be better. Or not bad, but definitely needing to be better, especially if you want Adam Fantilli to pop. And so they've changed the middle six. They've also changed the top line, which feels like madness. So they've moved Voronkov off that top line to the second line. And so instead of 10, 23, 86, they've put Ken Johnson up there. So it's Johnson, Monahan, and Marchenko as the top line, which I don't hate. I want to say out that I don't hate that. I've really, really loved the concept of having Johnson and Monahan together. I think Johnson plays a very Johnny Gaudreau style game, and I'm really interested to see if he manages to recreate that playing with Sean Monahan, who obviously played really, really well with Johnny Gaudreau in Calgary. Keeping Monahan and Marchenko together is a no-brainer. If you wanted to move someone off that line, it was going to be Voronkov. That being said, I don't know that that's the line I would have changed up. I understand that they want to change some things up, but that was kind of a surprise to me that they broke that top line up so early. Like, it's been one of the most productive lines in hockey. They've got 6 goals between them, 8 points between them in 3 games. Like, that to me is pretty good, right? But I'm not the coach. So Voronkov has been moved down to the second line, which I believe is now Voronkov, Fantilli, Sillinger. I don't know that this solves the problem with that line, which is that Fantilli needs a skill guy. Like, Voronkov has skill, and I know that one of my everydayers, Stanley, is going to come for me if I say that Voronkov is not a skilled player, because I do think he is a skilled player. I don't know if this line, as is constructed right now, is going to be a line that gets things done. I don't know that there's anyone on this line that is really gonna I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Fantilli can drive the play. Voronkov can finish it. Of course, Sillinger's there. I don't know. I really would have put just a pure skill guy on this line, as opposed to, trying to get that blend of skill and size and grit and whatever. Again, I go back to why have you separated Fantilli and Ken Johnson based on what they did at the end of last season? But that's especially because your argument for separating them was that you wanted to see what Johnson and Coyle looked like, and now you've just moved Johnson to a different line that's not Fantilli's line. But it is what it is, right? The third line has become Jenna, Coyle, Olivier, which I also don't love. Like, that was one of my picks for potential third lines. I think, again, Jenna, I do think is a third line player. And I have liked Olivier's game in the early goings. I've liked Coyle's game in the early goings. And I said, put one of Sillinger or Jenner on that line and it'll be pretty good. So that line, I think, is one that I am interested to see. I feel like, again, going back to that, it feels like they're just trying to figure out the second line and they keep missing on what it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this second line will be a great success and like Adam Fantilli will have a 4-point night and Dmitry Voronkov will have a hat trick and everything will be great and good and right in the world. I don't know. But I'm not convinced by that second line in the way that I am by the first and third lines. We'll see. Again, maybe I'm wrong. And then the fourth line, Miles Wood, took a stick to the eye really early in the Devils game. He's going to be out for about a week, they said. So I guess in comes Yegor Chinakhov to play on the fourth line. My guess is he will play like 8 minutes, will produce exactly nothing, and no one will be happy about that because, again, I'm not going to get into the whole of it again, but this is not a fourth line player, right? Like he just isn't. Playing in with Aston Reese and Lundestrom is not the move. It's not going to do anything for his game. He's going to spend the entire time in the defensive zone playing a checking role. That's not what he's built for. And it's going to turn into what happened at the end-ish of last season, which is they put him on the fourth line, and when he wasn't producing, decided instead that was probably a him problem and not a systems or line problem, and then take him out of the lineup completely and put him back in the press box. So I don't know whether he'll play every game with Wood gone, but I don't know. This cannot possibly be a successful situation for Chinakhov to be in. Again, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll see him, have some jump. Maybe we'll see him have a really good game to try and prove that he belongs in the lineup. But I don't think that. I don't know that he can prove that on the fourth line, which, like, I get that you want to, you don't immediately reward guys with top 6 minutes. I get that. I really do. But it feels silly to put someone in a situation they're not built for, and when and expect them to thrive there, to put them in an easier situation, especially in hockey, right? And this is an opinion that I've had for a long time. But I think it's just going to continue with Chinakhov for whatever reason. Everson and him clash. And I guess they thought it was fixed, or they told us all it was fixed, and it does not appear to be. So maybe Chinakhov will show up big tonight. I would love that. I'm not convinced it's going to happen. Probably going to be Elvis in goal. Moving on to other things. Elvis in goal I feel fine about that. Again, like, we're in a really good situation right now. Like, again, this will probably regress, but Jet Greaves has a 932 through games. Elvis has a 923 through one game. If we get another good Elvis game in a row, that's incredible, right? He was usually good for 2 or 3 in a row, and then we would have 2 or 3 bad Elvis games in a row last season, right? But it looks like they are going to be doing the bounce back and forth 1A, 1B thing for at least a little while longer. So maybe the extra rest for Elvis will, again, create a more consistent goalie, which is great news. So I'm more than happy for them to start Elvis in this game. I think at some point we're going to have to talk about the fact that they only know how to score when Elvis is in goal. And I am going to be really frustrated if we get another 6 or 7 goal outpouring tonight. And then Jet Greaves goes in on Saturday and they score like 1 goal against the Lightning. Because I know that it's not personal and it's not like we're playing for Elvis and not for Jet thing, but it is extremely frustrating to watch. As well as kind of funny in a I have to laugh about it because if I don't, what else do I do kind of way. But it is kind of comical that Jet has played 2 games, has a 932 save percentage, has allowed, I think, 3 goals on like 50 or 4 goals on 50 something shots, and is 0-2 to start the season. Whereas Elvis allowed 4 goals. Admittedly played very well in Minnesota, so it wasn't like he played badly and got the win, but he has not played as well as Jet Greaves and is 1-0 to start the season, which is just Hockey is such a sport. It's such a stupid sport sometimes. Defense sounds like it's going to stay the same. Christensen in for Gabranson. I like the Christensen-Matejchuk pairing. They didn't play a ton, but when they did play, they were good. And we're hoping for a bounce back game from Provorov and Severson, who were very weak against the Devils. But it sounds like Dante Fabro is back in terms of like just being good again. So I feel pretty good about the defense. I am suspicious but willing to be wrong about the forward lines, and I feel fine about the goaltending, which is a strange place to be in, considering all of last year. But we're going to take another quick break, and then when we get back, we're going to run through my predictions really quick, which I did share on Twitter about an hour ago, so this is not news to any of you every day, as I'm sure, but we'll roll through my predictions. And I also want to talk a little bit about Cam Atkinson, just because they are honoring him tonight. He is signing a one-day contract later this morning. Will be retiring a Blue Jacket later today, which I just love. So we'll talk about Cam in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. All you got to do is pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel. You can do basically anything with it. If you want to build a hilarious parlay, like I like to do, you can do that where you put $1 in, and if like 5 separate things happen, you win $47,000. You can do player props where, if you want, okay, this guy's going to get 3 shots on goal in this game, or this guy's going to get a touchdown, or whichever sport you're following. You can even follow live during games. If you think that there's going to be a huge comeback brewing, you can put money on that. And if it hits, then you are in the green. Makes watching sports even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the app today and get started. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We've talked a little bit about the game, about the Avalanche, about the Blue Jackets, their new lines that I'm suspicious of. Predictions time. I know that I just talked about how the goaltending has been good and how the forward lines might be suspicious, and also about how the Avalanche are rolling. I predict 3-1 win for the Blue Jackets, based on absolutely nothing beyond the fact that I am refusing to bet against the Blue Jackets because it feels bad to do so. And also just kind of like vibes. I don't think anyone has predicted the score correctly of any game thus far, but 3-1 win, Adam Fantilli goal. I think he's overdue. If it's on the power play, great. But if not, I'll accept that as well. My hope for this game is mostly just that the penalty kill works. Because if they're going to keep doing crime, they have to be able to do the time. For people who are not everydayers, people who haven't already got started in my contest, you can join in now if you want. Basically, I've decided to make it a little bit more interesting when I do my game predictions. If you want to predict the score and an anytime goal scorer, so I did 3-1 with a Fantilli goal, you get a point for each of those. If you get both of them right, you get a bonus point. And if you predict an overtime or shootout win/loss and get that correct, you get a bonus point there as well. I've got a spreadsheet. At the end of the season, I'll count everything up, and the winners will get something neat. I haven't decided what that is yet. I'm still in conversations with legal about it, but I do think that the plan is that whoever finishes with the highest score will get a prize, and whoever beats me will get a second smaller prize, because I am also in this competition. So anyone that finishes above me in the standings gets something cool, and whoever finishes top of the standings gets something even cooler. So that's my current plan. Get your predictions in below. You can at me on Twitter about them as well, and I will put them into my spreadsheet. I think after 5 games, I'll do a little roundup and give you guys a small leaderboard. So if you want to be on that and you want to get your predictions in, then make sure you do that. But let's move on from predictions. I want to talk about Cam Atkinson for a minute because the Blue Jackets are honoring him tonight, which is really, really neat. And Cam was one of my favorite Blue Jackets for a long time, right? I understand why they traded him back in the day. It was very much in theory anyway, it was, we have 2 top line snipers. Can we trade one of the snipers for a playmaker to really make that line pop? So they traded him for Jake Voracek. I do think it was at least in part a GM decision as well to fix not the infighting necessarily, but I know that there was a leadership group that basically was unhappy with the attitude of some of the players. And some of those players were, guys that Jarmo Kekalainen went out and paid a lot for, or guys that he was really invested in. And so, the guys that complained, so to speak, some of them found themselves being moved off the team not much longer after that. And one of those guys was Cam Atkinson. Played in Philadelphia for a couple of years. I believe got traded to the Lightning or was bought out and then signed a contract with the Lightning, but he was Mr. Blue Jacket for a minute there, right? Like he's basically second behind Rick Nash in almost everything. He played 627 games with the Blue Jackets, had 213 goals, 181 assists, 146 penalty minutes, and is second on the Blue Jackets in all-time points, goals, game-winning goals, and shots on goal. Third in power play goals, fourth in power play points, fifth in assists. I believe he also holds the Blue Jackets record for hat tricks, which is 6. And he is the playoff leader as well for the Blue Jackets in goals, assists, and points. He has 26 playoff points in 35 playoff games as a Blue Jacket. So truly one of it's between him and Rick Nash for Mr. Blue Jacket, right? Like, and he was a 6th round pick. They had no, he shouldn't have made it, right? He's like 5'9", a 6th round pick. There was no way that he should have made it, and he did. And he's just a really great guy to root for, right? He loved it in Columbus. I believe when he was traded, he actually sold his house in Columbus, moved to Philadelphia, and then moved back like the season after that. I think kept his place in Philadelphia, but got another house or rebought his own house in Columbus to live there in the off season. He's got a hockey academy here. It sounds like now that he's retired, he's moving back here full time. I'm glad that the Blue Jackets are honoring him. Because I really, really feel so strongly that he should have spent his entire career as a Blue Jacket. And if that trade hadn't happened, then there was no guarantee that would have happened, right? I believe he was traded and the Blue Jackets didn't play a ton of playoff games after that. So my guess is that he probably would have been fodder at the trade deadline or whatever. Don Waddell doesn't like small players, so he might have been on the cutting board when Don Waddell came in. All of this stuff. There's no guarantee that the trade, a trade wouldn't have happened after if the Voracek trade hadn't happened. But man, I really do feel like he should have been a Blue Jacket for his entire career. And it's really, really great that they're bringing him back. They're honoring him tonight. I didn't pick 3-1 automatically because of the 13 that Cam Atkinson wears, but it would be fun if that was what it was, especially because that's how the score bug is going to look. But it's also going to be weird seeing 13 back in Columbus. And I do wonder if that was part of why they haven't officially retired the number, is because they knew that Atkinson was maybe coming back. But I don't know. That's wild speculation on my part. It is going to be weird to see 13, but the Blue Jackets were really, really lucky to have Cam Atkinson for all those years. And, again, if you're an everydayer, you remember what it was like having Cam Atkinson, right? Before last season, he was the last 30-goal scorer for this team. He is, I believe, the only 40-goal scorer for this team. I don't believe Rick Nash hit 40 goals with Columbus. I might be wrong on that. But, that would have been the 18-19 season, I believe. He scored 41 goals. And until last season, that was the last time anyone had scored 30 goals or more for the Blue Jackets. So, he was really, really good for the Blue Jackets for a really long time. And it's going to be great to have him back in town. You love to see it. He was at the game on Saturday in the crowd, just hanging out with, I believe, his oldest son, which is, it's just nice to have alumni that... I feel like a lot of teams, you look at the Canadians, for example, you look at the Maple Leafs that have the alumni around all the time, and I feel like you don't get as much of that in Columbus. And so it's really nice, obviously Rick Nash came back. You've got some other guys that have kind of taken roles in the organization, but I think it's going to be really nice to have someone like Cam Atkinson around the team because he's, I think, a really good role model for a lot of these younger guys, especially the smaller younger guys. Ken Johnson, for example, I feel like could learn a lot from Cam Atkinson. They play different games, but that's my opinion. So great, going to be great to have Cam Atkinson back. Hopefully, these Blue Jacketed idiots can pull off a win for him. We'll talk about that tomorrow, though. We'll break down tonight's game, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know how it goes of the Blue Jackets and the Blue Jackets game. Thank you for listening to this episode, even though it's a little bit late. Hopefully, it is still your first listen of the day every single day. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. And if you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. But until then, make sure you stay locked on.